Hey everyone, in the last video we covered all the racial differences between Oblivion and the Oblivion Remastered, and now it's time to do the same for the Birthsigns. Starting in the top left with the Warrior, this one's solid and straightforward with a plus 10 strength and endurance. If you want a classic fighter or a tanky melee build, this one gives you a great head start. There's no changes between the Oblivion Remastered and the original Oblivion version in this, and I would say just the attribute bonuses are still very beneficial because endurance will still give you more HP, and strength will still let you hit harder and carry more weight. Next on our list is the Mage. Now this one isn't as fun as some of the other magic signs that you can use, such as the Apprentice or the Atronach, but it is a great beginner-friendly sign if you just want more magic. If you tie it with something like the Altmer or the Breton, that gives you a real nice increase as well to the already original racial boost that you get to Magicka, so this isn't a bad one. There's not too much to say about it here. If you find that you want to have as much mana as possible to keep casting all day, the Mage might be the sign for you. Moving to the right here, we've got the Thief. Now this is one of my first corrections I have to make here. Due to the new leveling system, the Thief has become much stronger of a sign. You get a triple threat with agility, luck, and speed increase, but luck is the key one here. Now, I'm going to make a video about leveling if it's not already on my channel, so definitely look for that for more detail. But in a nutshell, you can only get 1 point of luck per level, and it costs a third of your overall leveling points in order to increase it by 1. What that means is just getting these 10 points in luck is the equivalent of spending 4 points per level for 10 levels just on luck. That's 40 affinity points that you get just for free, on top of also getting 10 points in speed and agility. If you're a stealth build, pick the Thief. Anything else, you're still really not going in a wrong direction by choosing this sign. Now coming down on the left side, we've got the Steed. This is one of my personal favorite fallback signs. If I don't really know what sign I want to pick, I'll usually just pick the Steed because 20 points of speed is definitely a solid boost. If you pick a race with an origin story that impacts your speed negatively too, this can definitely overcome those differences and put you at least right on the equal footing, if not an increase of 10 points or so. Moving faster never hurts anybody. It helps you maneuver in combat, create distance between yourself and the enemies if you need to heal, and a multitude of other ranges, which makes it a great utility sign. To the right of Steed, we've got the Apprentice sign. This will increase your Magicka by 100 points, which is an enormous boost, but it does increase your susceptibility to magic by 100%, which means you're taking double the magic damage every time, no matter what. If you're going to go with this sign and you're really dead set on it, I highly recommend not choosing an Altmer, because you're just going to take so much damage from all magic types that you're going to be in some serious trouble unless you're constantly casting some shields or reflects. Pick a Breton with the Apprentice sign. The Breton gives you 50% magic resistance as it is, so that really halves this nerf by half, so it's not a bad way to do it to still get 100 magic points. To the right of the Apprentice would be the Shadow. Now the Shadow, you just get 60 seconds of invisibility once a day. Now I say just, but in early game and for sneak builds, this can be pretty impactful. I will say eventually, once you start leveling up and getting into the late game, you'll start dabbling in chameleon armor and some other bonuses that'll just be natural enchantments that'll pretty much do this for you all day, every day. But for early game, it's not a bad sign to choose. Not the best, but not the worst, and it can be pretty fun. Helps you get some items that otherwise you may not be able to steal as well, which can be beneficial in the long run. The Ritual is next in the list. Now the Ritual has 2 abilities that you get. You can either turn undead for 30 seconds, and you can use it multiple times a day, and it only costs 40 magic per cast. But Mara's Gift can be used once a day and restores 200 points of health. This is a pretty solid sign. I like if I'm going with like a paladin type build to choose the Ritual, because the turning undead is very RP friendly, and 200 points of health is just a great, oh shit, I'm dying. No, I'm not, never mind. So it's a cool one to choose. I wouldn't say it's by far the best or the worst, but it is an interesting one, and it can be some fun RP elements to it. Next in the grid is probably the most polarizing one. A lot of people are going to say this is the best sign. Some people are going to say it's the worst. I think it's definitely up there in the top signs. I don't know if I'd put it at the best just because of the nerfs, but covering it quickly, you do get to increase your magic by 150 points. Every time you get hit by spells, you have a 50% chance of absorbing the spell cast at you, so you'll take no damage from it. However, you don't get any magic regeneration, which can be pretty difficult for new players or inexperienced players to the Oblivion playstyle. If you're a veteran wanting to get into spellcasting, I would highly recommend the Atronach. It's a really fun way to kind of play the game and makes you think of things that you otherwise wouldn't think of. And definitely focus on getting alchemy ingredients to constantly be making yourself magica potions. After the Atronach comes the Tower. Now with the Tower, this one's a pretty weak skill. In Morrowind, I used to think it was great back when I was like 12 because you could open the average difficulty lock in Seda Neen to get a whole bunch of armor and stuff in early game. But in Oblivion and Skyrim, it really lost its effectiveness. With the lockpicking skill, average locks really aren't hard to do. With like 3 security, I can do it. So to be able to open that once a day is pretty pointless, and only reflecting 5% of all incoming damage for 120 seconds once a day isn't a huge deal either. 5% isn't a high percent. If you watched my last video on signs, this next one is going to be a change between Oblivion Remastered and the original Oblivion, and that's the Lord. You're going to notice that in my last video I said Blood of the North was an extremely overpowered skill, and I think I was right because they took it out in the Oblivion Remastered. They've changed the Lord sign where now you get to increase your armor rating by 15 and increases your magic resistance by 15%. Now, while this may not be the #1 overpowered sign anymore, it's still a very solid sign to choose from, especially in the early game. Armor rating by 15, a lot of times even your chainmail is only going to have 1 or 2 armor per piece, so essentially it's like you're wearing 2 sets of armor at light armor. And the resist magic by 15% is awesome, especially if you choose like an Altmer that already has some weaknesses to it, or you go with another choice. Maybe the Breton that already has 50% resistance. Now you've got 65% resistance and you're dodging like 2/3 of all incoming magic damage, which is pretty crazy. Now moving on over, we've got the Lady. Now the Lady's pretty straightforward. You get 10 points of willpower and endurance. I actually really like this sign, especially if you're like a spell sword build or something like that, because the endurance is going to help increase your maximum HP and your HP regeneration, and your willpower increases your magicka regeneration. So it helps you just kind of get to be more in combat, cast more often, and really it's a good mix of combat stat and intelligence magic stat there for you. Now these last 2 signs are similar in a way, but drastically different, and they've changed a bit from the Elder Scrolls Oblivion to the Oblivion Remastered version. Going to the Lover here, you get to paralyze the target for 10 seconds and you reduce fatigue by 120 points. I don't love this sign, mainly because of the fatigue drain. For a lot of the game, you're not even going to have 120 fatigue points, so every time you paralyze the target for 10 seconds, it's going to take you 10 seconds to get your fatigue back enough to even be able to focus on doing a lot of combat. So I don't love this one, especially compared to something like the Serpent, where the Serpent can poison others while draining their own fatigue. So as you can see, they're very similar. One paralyzes, one poisons, but I'll always go with poison over it because it deals 3 points of damage for 20 seconds. It also cures poison on yourself, dispels 90 points of damage with only 100 points of damage to your fatigue. So you get a lot more bang for your buck for this, and it even uses less fatigue than the other one. So I would say probably the Serpent's better because you'll actually do DPS while you're letting that fatigue recharge, which is something that you don't get over here with the Lover. And there you have a brief overview of all the signs and what my personal opinions and feelings are on them with the changes from the Oblivion game in 2006 to the Oblivion Remaster that came out yesterday. If you have any thoughts, opinions, or comments or questions, definitely leave them in the comments and I'm happy to answer them. Stay tuned for a guide on all the classes in Oblivion, including pre-built and also custom class ideas to give you some ideas on how to make your character and what direction you want to go to. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing.